committee. And being sort of new to the committee and commission business, I realized that there's a lot that we consider in planning and zoning that goes hand in hand with what you guys not only consider, but are experts in. So I thought we probably ought to have a lot more cross-tell between us. This occurred to me when we were looking at a landscaping ordinance, and we talked about trees for 45 minutes. And if anybody knows about trees and that kind of thing, and water runoff and that kind of stuff, it's you guys. So I recommended as part of a new member training that we always have somebody come over here into the zoning board of adjustment, people that really are brother and sister committees to the planning and zoning. So that's why I'm here, and I wanted to say hi, and I'll try to make some more of these. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
On the agenda items, C1, consider approving minutes for the April 12th, 2023 meeting and take appropriate action. Are there any comments about the minutes from last time?
Will be accepted in.
Is there, that was a motion to approve the minutes, seconded by Soren, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. C2 is receive a presentation from Dallas College on sustainability initiatives.
Yes, yeah. That's you.
Is this a good spot? Sure.
Well, hey, folks, my name is Neil Kaufman. I'll keep this a little bit brief since I know we're a little bit behind. I'll kind of talk a little bit about, well, I guess first let me just introduce myself. So I'm Neil, and I'm the Assistant Director of Sustainability for Urban Agriculture with Dallas College. I've been with Dallas College for about a year and 5 months. And before that, I worked for UT Austin and sustainability. But plants and it just so happens actually wild plants is kind of my passion and my background. But my main focus, or I guess the intention of my role as it was created, was around food production. My role is to help facilitate and support the various campus gardens we have around throughout Dallas College. Fairly recently, we've been reorganized out of the Social Responsibility and Inclusion Office into facilities, which does help the role that I have because almost everything I do is kind of basically through facilities. So in our 7 different campuses, we have 3 active gardens. Our flagship and our pride and joy, as some of you have seen it recently, is our Brookhaven Pollinator Garden. That's, I think, the reason why I'm so proud of the work that our master naturalists have done and the work Jerry has done to kind of get it started is because it is such a great representation of community engagement and a great representation of really what partnerships look like and how community college looks when it's done right. It's not strictly a wall thing and something where students come to learn and leave. Right, that's all fine and dandy, but like, what about the community? And so, in fact, that's why I left UT Austin to come work for Dallas College because I wanted to work with the community. So, with our other campus gardens, we have one at North Lake. Actually, 2 getting installed at North Lake and 1 at Eastfield, and then a greenhouse at Mountain View. So the idea is, especially as Dallas College has become one campus or one college rather. How can we support all these kind of one and the same? So we're using this greenhouse. I'm still working on getting that renovated so that we can, have a nursery and send those out and also help support our landscapers to help them integrate sustainable gardens into every landscape that we have. So that's kind of the basics of what I do. I'm happy to address any other questions with what I do or else any other kind of sustainability things. If there's any questions you'll have?
What kind of fertilizer do you use? Synthetic or?
I guess, well, are you asking for Dallas College in general?
Yes.
They do synthetic. So Dallas College kind of goes, their model is whatever is effective. Now, that's not my personal approach, and that's not, we're going to be trying to work away from that. But because of staffing shortages, because of funding shortages, it's hard to even start talking about, to be frank, hard to start talking about, things like integrated pest management on a landscape level. So we're gonna do that slowly, by being able to offer added value. So that's with our greenhouse, where we can say, hey, maybe instead of planting some pansies and some, things that like look plenty nice, like they're like nice, but Swiss chard, right? If we grow Swiss chard and we grow broccoli and we grow dino kale, and that looks cool too. And you can also eat it, but we can only eat it if you don't spray all the nasty stuff. So that's kind of we've already started piloting it at Mountain View, that kind of thing where, and here's where it comes full circles. Now the facility's gonna say, well, with the pansies, I only had to replant that once in a season and I don't have to think about it. Now if I plant dino kale, I have to come and harvest it every 2 weeks and then replace it after 3 or 4 weeks, whatever it may be. Well, no, we can get students to do that because that's something really interesting for students. So now we have our green clubs involved in the landscaping. So again, that's kind of our approach, is this whole system approach where facilities isn't just supporting the classroom, but it's the classroom is facilities itself.
Just to follow up on that, from the water conservation, what methods are you using to conserve water as far as all the gardens, or not just the gardens, but as well?
So in our campus gardens, we have rain barrels. I mean, that's kind of our one big thing that they do. The Brookhaven garden that some of y'all saw, I mean, the big problems, among a few of the big problems that occur is when the irrigation does turn on, right? Because they've gotten it to be so sufficient off of no irrigation. Now that's the kind of model that I'd love to be working towards throughout the rest of our acreage. So we have what's called Zone D, which is all of the basically like undermanaged or no managed lands. And so those areas, how can we? The hope is to be able to use those and work our way back in to be able to mitigate our water usage. Right now, there's nothing done that's like super intentional aside from kind of the money side. Maybe, hey, let's maybe even start to remove plants to help save as a.
Okay, so maybe this is more what you're angling at. So we've taken a lot of parking lot areas and we have intentional plants and then decomposed granite or river rock or rolled glass or things of that nature to try and keep the weeding down, keep pesticide use down, water use down, those kinds of things. A lot of the trees have specific irrigation to the tree specifically, so we can control that a little bit tighter. Maybe that may be what you're kind of.
Yeah, thanks, Ted. Yeah, and that's right. And I think there's still, a lot more work that we're I'm hoping to do and work with our irrigation folks on optimizing the irrigation. So, I'm working with a lab at Dallas, UT Dallas, and we're going to do some satellite imagery to see where are the underwatered and overwatered zones on our lawns. And that way we can adjust our irrigation properly. So there's a lot we can still be doing for sure. One opportunity.
Well, I was driving down Alpha Road College about 4 o'clock today. The sprinkler system was on. This is right after we had a big rainstorm.
Yeah. Doesn't that just break your heart? Yeah. It's just awful. Yeah. So those kind of things. Yeah. It's like those kind of things we should really be optimizing. It's a no-brainer. It's an easy place to start. Yeah.
See, I'm good.
Yeah. Any other questions? Yeah. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
I missed it.
Always got your back.
Were there any other speakers?
That's it.
Okay.
Thank you.
C3 is receive a staff update on sustainability initiatives.
All right. So thank you for those that were able to attend our council meeting on April 18th. The mayor did the lights out proclamation. We have signs throughout the city and those will be picked up at the end of the week at the end of peace migration. So the proclamation was lights out nights for both the spring and the fall. So we'll put the signs back out in the fall and hopefully encourage people to turn off non-essential lights. On the water rebates, we've had 24 applications be approved, resulting in 29 toilets. And that means that we have a little over 7,000 remaining in our budget for that. Our Power Switch program, our most recent auction took place, I believe, April 25th was the last day for signups. And now that that one is done, we're starting up our Solar Switch program, and the auction for that one is on May 31st. So if you're interested or have friends that are interested in putting solar on their home, encourage them to sign up. The auction is May 31st, at which point we'll get the rate of cost per watt of installed, but we'll be taking signups actually until August the 9th. The active transportation plan, which is an update to our current trail master plan, the consultant was selected and the contract should be approved at our June 6th council meeting. So we're excited to get started on that. EV and solar ready, that's an agenda item today where we'll be seeking a recommendation for or against from the committee. It'll go to city council in a study session to introduce the concept and answer questions, get direction from them. If they want to move forward with a vote, then that would be also on June 6th. Let's see, the city, we submitted a policy bundle application for transportation funding. Our application was approved and we'll get funding awarded in the fall. And so this funding can be used as our match for a federally funded project. So we've used that for trail projects in the past and we should be eligible for funding. And that will be awarded in the fall. The greenhouse gas inventory has been completed. I will probably share the results in our June meeting, have a presentation providing kind of more about the city's emissions. We did 2 levels. We did the municipal operations, so just the operations of city government. And then we did one that was the entire community. So that encompasses everything, residents, businesses, everything within our boundaries. So that's exciting to get those done. That's what we'll benchmark a lot of our progress on moving forward. Department of Energy block grants. We submitted a letter of intent to use that funding that's been allocated for us. I believe that was from the Inflation Reduction Act. Farmers Branch is eligible for about $76,000 from that program. So we'll be using that for like a rebate on an equipment purchase. So EV or something that has to do with energy efficiency, renewables. We haven't completely decided the project yet, but we just had to submit a letter of intent for that. I did some speaking engagements, I don't know it's ICMA, it's City County Managers Associations. They did a solar community workshop. So I talked about all of our solar initiatives there and the strategic government resources. I did a webinar for them that's going in their servant leader resource library. So that was also about solar. We're also working preliminary budget work for our next fiscal year. And on a light note, I will be on vacation from the 18th to the 29th. So if you don't hear from me, I'm overseas and I will not be checking email. So, so if you need anything from me, reach out to me before then. Or if there's something that comes up during, Robert will be here. So,
Quick question.
yes.
Are all the buildings, all the city building, do they have solar?
So we have 4 buildings that have solar. We have the natatorium, the rec center, fire station 2, and the library. So only those 4 have solar, as of right now.
I noticed in the branch bulletin, you branch both had a nice article on our lights out. That was very nice. Lisa, were you involved with writing that at all?
I'm gonna try and use Lisa's for the fall.
No, it wasn't involved.
But it was nice to have that publicity given out.
It was a nice, and I like the link to the Audubon Society page, those things. So,
Any questions? The next agenda item is consider recommending the city adopt an ordinance, electric vehicle charging infrastructure requirements, construction, and take appropriate action.
All right, so this is the presentation here. I believe this is the 3rd time we've talked about this topic, so I'm gonna start with this. We actually have 2 items today. So we're gonna talk about solar ready and EV ready. It's the same presentation. You probably saw that in your packet. We take everything back to the sustainability plan here. So this aligns as a recommended action to adopt a solar ready building code and an electric vehicle ready code. One of the other items there is reducing barriers to solar energy, which ordinance like this aims to address. So for this particular item, we're going to focus just on electric vehicle charging. So you've seen this slide before, I believe. So the charging codes are different levels that could be, I guess, defined. EV capable is the cheapest, most basic one that basically ensures that there's electric panel capacity and a circuit that can add on, conduit and a charger in the future. So this is basically just that you have that space on your panel that will in the future accommodate a level 2 charger. EV ready is a little bit more. There's the conduit and a 240 volt outlet. So what this would mostly look like, if you think about like a single family home that has a garage, it would basically have an extra 240 outlet right there in the garage, kind of like you would have to your clothes dryer. So that would be very easy for someone if they were to purchase an electric vehicle to buy that charger, plug it in, and you're good to go. And then the third one is EV installed, and this is having a level 2 EV charging station actually installed during construction. And so these are the chargers that you see at our city facilities that do about 25 miles per hour of range per hour of charge. So the reasoning behind these potential ordinances is really based on air pollution. Vehicles are the primary source of air pollution in DFW. We had 48 ozone exceedance days last year. We're already starting to see ozone warnings. You've probably seen some of the billboards along the roads, encouraging carpooling, encouraging all these other things. So we want to decrease our vehicle emissions. We want to decrease our air pollution. And so eliminating those barriers to EV adoption is really going to help with those emissions reductions. EVs are becoming a lot more widespread. Cost has dropped over time. Batteries, the range has gone up. So we're seeing them more and more throughout. And 80% of the charging takes place at the home. So, most of the time, some people are charging at work. Some people are charging at, other places. But a lot of times it's you come home, you plug in your vehicle. So most of that charging takes place. So these ordinances on the EV charging focus on that kind of home charging. And then kind of the proactive, not reactive approach. So it's easier and cheaper to install these during new construction versus a retrofit. So the recommendation, this was compiled based on feedback from the committee. We're using model language from the International Code Council. So that's all of our building codes are from ICC, focused on new construction only at this time. It's residential, so 1 and 2 family dwellings will have 1 EV ready space per unit. So that's that 240 volt outlet. Multifamily buildings, you can see the chart below there. It's based on total number of parking spaces. We're actually requiring at least 1 level 2 port to be placed in the apartment. And then a certain number of EV capable spaces. So about 20% of total parking spaces will basically have the ability to be easily retrofit in the future. Commercial buildings, we have no requirements for that. And that was based on feedback that we received from this committee. All right, so I will pause there because this particular item is specifically for EV, and then we'll move to solar, the next one. So I can take questions if anyone has any.
What negative response might people have towards this? Is there any?
So we did meet with a couple of home builders that are in Farmers Branch. The EV charging, they're starting to do this anyway. They're building mainly single family homes. So they're starting to get requests for this, and it's a pretty low cost thing for them. So they haven't really, for the few folks that we talked to from a construction perspective, didn't really push back on this one. Bills, it's I guess typical response from builders is it's an added cost. So we could hear that from the community. And that's something that if this gets taken to council, they might, builders associations or just individual builders might reach out against. But one of the things I would just kind of say is this is all focused on new construction, and Farmers Branch is largely built out. So the impact is going to be slightly minimal compared to where if we were a city that's, let's say like Salina or one of those cities that's like rapidly building. However, we do have a demo rebuild program within the city where we incentivize people to build new homes on existing lots. Right. And so to me, it's kind of like the left hand talking to the right. If we're incentivizing a new build, and we're also doing the solar switch program or the, those types of things, we want those kind of to communicate with one another. So I think the criticism would be on the added cost from a builder. But there are also, you know, the benefits that we kind of mentioned here.
One question I had was, I think commercial buildings, no charging codes, EV charging codes, so we are not pushing the commercial buildings or new commercial buildings.
No, that was based on the feedback here is just because I can't remember all the details, but I think one of the things was, you know, we didn't want a commercial like a grocery store to have to then kind of be a fueling station and have that as an extra financial requirement on them. So I think the committee's consideration was kind of economic on that one. And, you know, there are certain places where the commercial buildings where people would stay for a while on charge. But it would be kind of, there's so much variance there. I think that was the reason we left those out.
Well, it goes back to your point that most of the charging happens at home. So you don't really necessarily need those commercial spots as well. If you're starting every day with like a fully charged car.
Mhm.
I saw the rec center charger.
We're working on those. Yeah, we're getting two put in at the rec center. Yeah.
So this will accommodate any, whether it's like a little teeny tiny smart car or one of the big.
So the charging ports are standardized with the exception of, I believe Tesla is different. They have adapters for theirs. So like the ones that the city owns and operates are ChargePoint brands. I believe if you own a Tesla, you have an adapter that'll allow that to work. But it's the standard one. This one, yeah.
I think most of the home builders in the area are building pretty premium homes to begin with. So
They really are. And they're getting a heck of a, the buyer's getting a heck of a deal for 3 years on the taxes for the rebuilds.
It's something like that.
Yeah, so.
Yeah, Thomas Cusick, I'm sure he can afford to get in that stuff.
Right.
Whoever's buying home from him.
Any other discussion? Well, our options are to approve the ordinance as is, make modifications, or table it, or not approve it. Is there a motion on the floor?
I move that we approve.
Okay, now, motion to approve, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Soren. Any, all in favor, say aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Alex.
All right.
The next agenda items, consider recommending the city adopt an ordinance regarding solar revenue requirements in new construction and take appropriate action.
All right, so on a similar topic, we've also seen some of these slides, I think, coming up on twice. But just for review, solar ready. So what does that mean? It is a building that can easily accommodate solar. This does not mandate solar be installed during new construction. It mainly just means that there's a certain amount of continuous roof space that's not interrupted by roof equipment. And then once again, very similar to the EV charging, this is the required electric panel capacity. So this is, so it can easily be adopted. So it can easily be adopted to the building, but like I said, does not mandate it's installed. It does include exemptions as were listed in the ordinance. So kind of the reasoning behind this is citywide, we use a lot of electricity, over 800 million kilowatt hours per year, across the community. We have a goal to increase our renewable energy, to remove barriers for solar adoption. Those are things within the sustainability plan. Just in a market sense, solar panels have drastically decreased in cost over time. And then we also facilitate the solar switch program. As I kind of mentioned earlier, to help homeowners adopt solar. Very similar to EV charging. This is kind of a proactive, not reactive approach. It's easier and cheaper to install those components during new construction than a retrofit. And there's some examples listed here on the slide, kind of with those savings there. So the recommendation that we have here is under new construction only. Residential, we're adopting basically an appendix that's already written. in the code. We just are adopting that with some slight modifications. Those modifications were made after we had discussions with local builders to kind of reduce the planning and the construction costs. So the thing on the residential that we removed the roof penetration sleeve, so that's where they would actually have to make a penetration in the roof. And so that, you know, could kind of have a roof penetration for someone that might not install solar right away or potentially ever. The load documentation that was in the appendix, that would require a professional engineer on that. We're removing that requirement because there's nothing else that they would have to have that same thing. So it'd be an additional expense for the builder, and that documentation of an interconnection pathway. So if you look at the model code and then what we're presenting, those three aspects are down, but the main thing is that the building is still solar ready. There's that continuous uninterrupted roof space and the electric panel capacity. That's on the residential. On the commercial, which would also include multifamily, is the exact wording that's in the appendix with that. So yeah, I can take any questions now.
This is to build to ensure that a home is ready to accept solar, not to require new homes to be built with solar.
That's correct. So they would have to have that electrical panel capacity. When they're doing the plan review, they would have to make sure that there's a solar ready area as defined. I think it's 300 square feet in the code that they could place solar panels on. So, you know, there's a few exemptions too, based on if there's building a home and there's, let's say, existing really tall trees and it's a single, you know, story home. If they can show that it's going to be shaded for too much of the time, then they could be exempted from these requirements.
Is there any component in the code that, you know, we're not ready to adopt now, but about like incorporating battery use as well?
So on the commercial side, there is mention of if there's going to be an area in the plan where batteries are going to be stored, an identification of that. If you look at Encore, their incentive programs, so they do solar and things. On the residential side, the only way that you can get that incentive now is by installing batteries along with that solar system. But as far as the ordinance on residential, it doesn't mention anything about batteries.
Okay.
Any other comments, questions? Our options to approve as is, make modifications, not approve it, or table it. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
Thank you. Is there a
Second.
second? Thank you.
Hold on, hold on,
Wait a minute.
real
You're
quick.
gonna vote.
Are you're able to vote?
Yes, sir.
Perfect, sorry.
Just making sure.
Yes, okay, correct,
All
sorry.
right.
So,
Legitimate approval.
I know this, bro. You know I don't talk unless I'm legit.
All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
and because I was busy interrupting, so it was Price to, who had the second, was it Soren? All right,
Second orange, actually first orange.
and so those will be presented, as mentioned in the study session to city council next Tuesday. I don't know if that's starting at 3 o'clock or 4 o'clock, so at 3 o'clock. So if you want to come in, I'll be presenting those items to city council. You can also view it, on YouTube or the city's website. So those will go, we'll get feedback from the council. I will let them know of the recommendation from the sustainability committee on both items. And, we'll go from there based on their direction.
Yeah, I did have a question on I didn't think about it till a second ago on the EV charging. You put the three options there. Did we ever decide on what option we were gonna try to get approved, or are we gonna wait until they make a recommendation and then?
So the residential is EV ready, so that's,
Okay, yeah.
that's the outlet. The multifamily is at least one, level 2 or EV installed, I guess,
Okay.
based on that definition. And then a percentage of EV capable. So they're all three kind of
Baked in.
they're all baked into that. Yeah.
Okay, sorry if you
No, you're good.
covered that, but I was reading through it and. Actually didn't hear you. I just remember we had a lot of discussion about EV ready, and we talked about it one of the other times, so.
Okay. Next agenda item, C6, discuss upcoming elections for committee chairperson, vice chairperson, and secretary.
We'll vote for officers in June.
Next time we get together.
Next time we get together. So if you're interested in one of the positions, if you're, want to nominate someone, you can feel free to, either email me between now and then. We can nominate some at the next meeting too, before we vote. That way everyone knows who's going. We can vote anonymously. We can vote by show of hands. Whichever you prefer. I'll just defer that to the committee.
Is anyone dropping off the committee?
So I don't know that at this time. Everyone, I think, has said that that with terms expiring have been, or have,
Yeah.
indicated that they want to continue. So I don't know how they judge that. That's kind of all in the city secretary's office. So they'll interview, I guess, any candidates for openings.
Yeah.
Um,
There is a
and then present
meeting
that to-
next, before the end of the month, that the city council will approve those who want to be reappointed, so we can presume that's going to happen. Yes.
Can I,
So,
go ahead.
question, as far as the leadership is concerned, city council has got nothing to do with that. We are going to be voting.
That's correct. So the way that I guess, the resolution that established the ordinance, the city council appointed the chairperson in the first year, and then we voted the vice chairperson and the secretary that year. After 1 year, then all 3 officer positions were voted on from internally. So the city council, they are in charge of appointing members to the board or to the committee, but they aren't involved in the election of officers within that.
Lisa?
Do we have any open positions for this committee or are we at capacity?
So we have I believe 5 people whose terms have expired. All have indicated that they are requesting a second term. But I guess technically we have 5 positions open. We have 5 applicants already applying for those. I don't know if there's other community members that have applied for this committee. That's all done through city secretary's office and the city council appointment.
So people can apply regardless of whether or not,
Any openings?
yeah.
I think so, yeah.
And that's through the city secretary office?
Yes.
And they can't just say, hey, you in the black suit, you're off.
No.
I don't think so. I mean, if your term is expired and like, I don't know how they weigh the candidates and stuff. But
Last question.
but as far as,
But why would?
yeah, terms expire for, I think if you're is it an odd number place? Is that how it is? Yeah, at the end of June, so
Yeah.
we'll vote for the officers and then eventually, I guess, a year down the road, when we have some more people that are coming off, people leave, you'll vote on officers before you, I guess, term out.
Yeah.
Essentially, that was what we decided last year.
So next meeting is really important. Please be here. C7 is receive, subcommittee updates, built natural environment.
We're working on our composting presentation, which I believe is scheduled for June. I think
Yeah,
Lauren.
right now we have that scheduled in June. Joseph and I will finalize agenda tomorrow.
Okay,
So I'll let you know if anything changes.
so yeah, that's our main focus right now.
Communications.
So we're working on different marketing elements for each of our kind of like the toilet rebate, the solar umbrella solar project that the city's got going on, and trying to do like kind of different mediums for each thing, so that it's not just like pamphlets for everything or, postcard for everything. So we're just kind of going through the different options and fleshing each of them out. We'll probably have something to show y'all maybe in June, but probably July.
Okay.
Can I say something on that? One of the things I forgot to mention, we are requesting in our next budget to have a sustainability intern. So, that
Nice.
person will hopefully work on some of our data collection and everything. with that, but also I want to see if they can work on some of the marketing stuff. So if we get that position approved and brought on board, I would love for communications subcommittee to kind of
Yeah.
work with them and here's what we, what y'all have built so far, and then have some collaboration.
Great, that sounds exciting. One of the things that I would like for us to consider is like, I have 2 people on my street that did the tree giveaway. And I've already talked to one of them and I was at, can I take a picture of your little sapling? It's got leaves all on it now. And so I was thinking, like a little postcard that's like, happy treeversary. We take the mailing list of all the people that participated, send them a postcard and ask them to like snap a shot of their little tree and post to the Facebook page, post to Instagram, stuff like that. So we can kind of like, engage people who've already participated and also, hopefully get new people to sign up. Not that I think that's gonna be a problem, but, just kind of get the word out more, stuff like that.
They did do a survey to all the people who got trees.
Yeah.
We just got a
I put that
4-question
out there.
survey, yeah. Saying, is it alive? Is it doing well?
alive?
Have you talked to it?
The 35 people that responded to that, no one said their tree was dead. It was, my tree is thriving or my tree is alive and I think it will survive. Like,
Yeah.
so it's the top
I have one that's thriving and then the other person, I wasn't sure theirs was gonna make it, but then I started seeing little green leaves on it, so.
Mine was dicey for,
It was
until about 2
yeah.
weeks ago. I
took
went out there and
If
talked
you
to
took
it.
a red maple, they were a little bit slower.
Yeah, I don't,
Oh,
release
good
to
to
come
know.
out. Yeah.
one
Yeah,
of them got an oak, I don't
I
know what
was-
the other one
I
got.
was really worried about it.
It was really quick. The maple was about 3 or 4 weeks behind it.
Yeah,
Sorry, my aunt's maple
mhm,
that wouldn't fit in her yard.
well,
If you get this internship position, what kind of background are you looking for? So that person you want to hire?
Probably someone at like the undergraduate level, environmental science is kind of a safe one if, people are pursuing sustainability, but, I would be open really to kind of anyone that has like a passion for it, for sustainability. So, if they have a data background or a business background, but, are interested in sustainability, that would be something that we would look into as well. Because a lot of it's going to be, working on a future greenhouse gas inventory, tracking our building energy usage and kind of seeing different things like that. So, it fits to a wide range of people. And then I mentioned the marketing communications aspect that I'd like to see. So we'll see. I've had a previous city and good luck with internship programs. Had students from UT Dallas that were super involved. They have a volunteer program on sustainability there. So there's quite a few interested applicants that have a passion for sustainability from them that might not have an environmental science background, but that's kind of just like the most, first thing that comes to mind when you think of sustainability.
Yeah.
Like that's a normal kind of thing. But yeah, we would probably be looking someone at the undergraduate, potentially master's level.
We have plenty of students here.
That's true. Be happy to have Dallas College applicants for sure.
I was gonna say, like, just be, it's a little local flavor in there too,
Alex, when would that person start?
So it's dependent on budget, approval, so they would start no earlier than fall. So if that's approved, we would also then look at, kind of, once we get it approved, we kind of have to make sure that the project plan is all in place and everything like that. And get someone on board, so it could either be, someone, I guess realistically, starting in the spring semester and working through the summer. Or we could have someone that is just working more hours in a shorter period of time. I figured we can kind of keep it open based on the applicants and their availability based on their
Is it
school
based on
schedule.
number of hours?
Yes, so we'll have like a certain, like a budget allocated, so that will equal X amount of hours that they can work. And they'll basically, the goal is to have them complete the projects within that amount of hours. So if they're working, I don't know, 20 hours a week spread through the spring and the summer, or 35 hours a week just in the summer or something like that.
Very cool. Birthday runners race. I have a meeting with the special events and parks next week to get their feedback. But still like to do that here at Brookhaven campus, and more details to follow. And water conservation?
Not much happening at this present time, but we will have some project that we'll be focusing on.
Also on the budget for that, we've included the same amount of pilot money that we've done for the toilet rebate for irrigation in our preliminary budget. So we have that meeting next week, and so I'll kind of have a better sense of any feedback that we have on that. But we've already put that in the budget to plan for that based on Al's presentation, a couple months ago.
So the summer is already here. So are we looking at next summer?
It would be next summer. So the budget approves, start of the fiscal year is October 1st. So we'd get it going sometime in that fiscal year.
Alex, on the toilet rebate, since we're not using all the money this year,
Mhm.
does that money carry over or how's that work?
No, unfortunately not. It gets.
Start over.
It gets.
When does that end?
September 30th, and then
So-
we're requesting the same, well, as of right now, we're requesting the same amount, so 10,000 for the next fiscal year.
Mhm.
So if we have, let's say, like $2,000 remaining at the end of this year, it gets reabsorbed into general fund. But then if we're requesting 10,000, then basically the pot refills up to 10 for that
Okay.
program.
But ideally, we'd like to get that. And how many applicants did you say we had?
There's 29 toilets, 24 applications approved.
Oh, that's.
Okay.
So, I think we had the big kind of rush of,
So-
rush of people that have, that just done one when the application launched. I think it's gonna be a slower uptake because it's kind of a big thing that we're asking people to do, swap out a toilet. It's not super easy to do. So I mean, it will trickle in.
Yes. It will.
We're also gonna reach out to the plumbing companies, the ones that people have like put invoices on that have participated in the program.
Mhm.
I'm gonna reach back out to those companies and just let them know. I think that was Lisa or Joseph, one of y'all's idea,
Yeah,
to reach out. So as we get those, just kind of say, hey, just so you know, we've got this program. So if you're swapping out a water heater, tell the person, I can swap out your toilet, you can get a rebate.
Yeah.
While
Yeah.
I'm at it. So I think that will hopefully help, accelerate the program a little bit.
I thought my water bill doubled this month, but it turns out my credit card expired and it was just 2 bills. I was like, it's the same thing on the graph, and it's like, oh, okay. Yeah, I was a little nervous.
clerical error.
Yeah, on my part, yeah.
All right, next agenda, item C8, receive an update from committee members on activities attended.
Well, I went to the comprehensive plan workshop last night at Mercer Crossing. The other one is tonight at the rec center, and then there's one tomorrow night, for the east side. And I recommend everybody go to it. I don't know how the city employees feel about it. I did not think it was very well attended. It seemed like there were a lot more like staff people there than residents that showed up. But it's not specific to, it's like the same presentation at all three, so it's not specific to the neighborhood you live in. So if you can go tomorrow night, I would recommend, and it's like super, it's not even as involved as the other two that they've had if you went to either one of those. But it talks about, they're talking about the Four Corners area and like want to get a lot of feedback about right there at Josie and Valley View.
And where's that one tomorrow?
It's at, Painter Tower? Is that what it's called?
What's the name of that presentation?
It's the comprehensive plan workshop, or I don't know the exact, what they called it, but. And then the other thing that they're focusing on is, which I think is important for this committee, is the, I don't know exactly how they phrased it, but basically it's like looking at the streets and seeing like where there's areas that's not like, for example, like Denton Drive, like maybe that's too much street for the volume of cars that travel on it. So how can we reallocate that area that make it more, well, not skinny streets, but they're just specific streets, because they're not talking at all about like, well, they're talking some about how to mitigate some of the speed and traffic on Josie or on Valley View, but it's a lot about like street management, like how are we in traffic management? So if you have opinions on that, this is the time to go and talk to the consultant people, because they're the ones gathering all the data to present the plan to the city. So,
It's Thursday, May 11th, 6:30 to 8 PM at Providence Tower, West Tower, and then it's 5001 Spring Valley Road.
oh, okay, so it's like right on the edge, right over there by the Galleria.
If you go to the main page of the city website and you kind of scroll down to where it says on the news thing, there's something that says comprehensive plan enters phase 3.
Yes.
And that has all the information about the meeting there.
Okay, so it's right on, yeah, it's right on the tollway.
They have this really, the one activity that I really enjoyed is like they show like a street, like what currently is Valley View, which is like 6 lanes of traffic. And they have these little, you know, tiles. This one has a tree on it, and this one has a park bench, and this one has the bus. And you kind of line it up and you like make this, what's your perfect street look like? And so it's just kind of a neat little, you know, exercise to be able to do to kind of like incorporate bike lanes and
Oh, that's what
buffer
you did for your
zones,
thing.
yeah, and
Okay.
stuff like that. So, and you know, you can, there was city council was there, some city council members were there, the mayor was there, of course, the consultant people and business development. Chris, I think his name is. So, you know, it's just a nice opportunity to kind of talk to the city leadership about some of the things that are important as residents, but also I think for the sustainability committee.
Who are the consultants we hired?
Dan Tech, I believe. or something.
Stay in tech.
Yeah.
I went to Earth Day at Fair Park and I know Lauren did also. She can probably report in next meeting. It was not bad. It's definitely diminished since the pandemic quite a bit. But still in all, it had probably 2 full buildings. Although a lot of vendors, I don't know if they packed up early or if they didn't show. There was a lot of empty booths. But all the probably typical big hitters were there. I know she got some literature, I got some, that we can go through and look, but it was nice and informative, but a little hard to navigate, so I think they need to they just have to get back to their pre-pandemic groove. Right, because it was huge, like
Yeah.
5 years ago, but they're still rebuilding. But I did get some good ideas. She got some more information on night sky, so I'll let her report on that. Also, she got some information on composting. And I got hold of some seed packets, like giveaways, that I thought were really well done. Instead of just literally a seed packet of seeds with instructions, they were formulated like marketing gifts, you know, like the Atmos Energy had their stuff kind of pressed into like a graphic of, you know, like a shovel, and you could put the whole thing in the ground and put your little picture in the ground and it grows to something. I don't know what it grows to, but anyway, I thought it was cool for the giveaways that we've talked about in possibly being at events. So we tried to pick up stuff like that too. It was interesting.
I went out to McDermott Observatory out in Southwest Texas, which is, I learned houses like the 3rd largest telescope in the world, by the way. It's in, it's the University of Texas, much to my chagrin, University of Texas Observatory, and they partner with people all around the world. But anyway, Big Bend National Park, Big Bend State Park, as well as the Big Bend over on Mexico side, is actually one of the best. It's one of the darkest skies because it's maintained as like a national dark area. And the McDermott Observatory actually partners with the entire area on keeping their lights as low as possible. And they had a whole presentation about dark sky in their observatory area. And the McDermott Observatory will actually partner and give advice on how to maintain dark sky. I took pictures of all the things they had up, but a lot of it wasn't necessarily, a lot of it was about how the type of lighting we use at night may be too powerful, that if you use just a softer light, it really reduces the light pollution, but also can make visibility much better. So I took a lot of photos of it. I thought it was really interesting. And I was like, you know, I wonder if we reach out to since we had so much trouble with the local dark sky people, I was like, what if we just reach out to the McDermott Observatory? Maybe they could get some information. But it was really interesting because they actually had photos from the local communities here, like Fort Davis and Fort Stockton and little towns in the area. The differences they had made, just like before and after photos, they put up just small differences. And it was pretty interesting. So didn't say pictures weren't allowed, so I took pictures, but they had like a heat map of lights in Texas, and it showed like the Big Bend area, how dark it was, and it moved over like DFW, and it's just bright white. I was like, I wish we could see Farmers Branch as a little dark spot in the white.
I mean, anytime on a cloudy night, it's basically
Oh,
daytime.
yeah, I walked out last night and just realized how light it was, because the light's just bouncing right back
Right.
on us.
Yeah.
And so,
I think we should contact them because, both Lauren and I, because we happened to talk afterwards, had tried to talk to the dark sky or the, you know,
the dark-
those people, those same people at Earth Day, and it was weird. They're tough to talk to. I don't know why, but it's just like, they just were not forthcoming with, well, yeah, right? So I think we should contact them, so, you know, give us information,
and I-
the three of us can do it.
I think is one of the national leaders of dark sky initiatives,
Mhm.
city and everything.
Yeah, and through that, like I said, I learned a lot whenever I did the road trip. If you haven't been to that part of the state, you really should go. It's really interesting. There's a lot of geography down there. It's just so far away.
Yeah,
But
that's
I mean, it was really, I didn't realize that the reason that area is so dark, yes, it's kind of in the middle of nowhere in Texas, but there's they put a lot of effort into
Concerted
keeping it dark. Yeah, I can't think of the right word of how they had it phrased so nicely on the literature. and I can't think of
Intentional
it.
effort.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there you go.
Yeah.
But
They just had a big write-up in the Dallas Morning News about 2 weeks ago too. Also, if I can find the article and send it to everyone.
it really, and also really dark down there. I mean, you look up, you can see the actual Milky Way, dusty sky. So it's pretty neat.
Anyone else? Okay. C9 is discuss agenda items for the future sustainability committee meetings.
I think, have we ever had a presentation from the Parks Committee? Or Parks Department? We
No,
requested one and then whoever ran it stepped down.
yeah, so I think I brought it up. I think that's still listed on native plants and future efforts for water conservation. So that's still the topic that you'd want to hear from Parks
Yeah.
about.
Because we're actively seeking information for our subcommittee, and I'm sure water conservation.
I can look and see if we can get someone in June or July for that.
I think we need to, start looking at the water emergency plan, I don't know what it's called. Because I did get a high level look at it. If you ask me what are the gaps, I won't be able to tell you today, but, and I don't know, Alex, when it's going to be due again, but that's something that we should, our committee, needs to have a voice on. I don't know if that's a topic that the team wants to have, or, I believe everyone's got the plan. And David Merritt asked that we be involved in it as well, so.
So the water conservation plan was adopted in 2019 and it's supposed to be updated every 5 years. So next year would be, and actually probably starting a little bit earlier, depending on when they're doing it within the year. So that should be something that this committee gets involved in. I think that was brought up as a future item for next, or last one, I think one of our last meetings. So maybe we look at July, having the park speaker and potentially someone from Public Works to talk about that, and they both kind of be water focused. Water focused July, works.
Sure.
We can
We
see.
need water because it's hot in July.
Yeah.
Can we get some more clarification on like rewilding private property with more, like Blackland Prairie type landscaping, and as far as code compliance goes on that? I had a couple people ask me that.
So you're more on the what's allowed within the current code
Right,
versus how to like actually do it kind of thing?
right, what's
Okay.
allowed. More than how to do it, yes, correct.
Yeah, both Lauren and I went looking for it, but we couldn't find very much in the
Yeah,
code.
it's not, and I don't know that,
And
my
maybe it's-
understanding is that like Texas is like a native plant pollinator friendly state, so like the state code supersedes any local, I don't know how that works exactly.
Yeah.
I'm just,
The biggest challenge on the rewilding is where, and then the effects it has on the neighborhoods adjacent to it.
sure,
So that's definitely something we've identified some areas. There is one currently, kind of, what we call growth zone.
Mhm.
It's hard to see, but it's basically a drainage area off Valley View, kind of near 35. It's a piece of parkland that they kind of just let go. But it's got growth zone in it. And so this initiative has been around before. I think some previous staff had, maybe Renee, I think.
Yeah, it was Renee.
Had started that project, Renee Esses, before she left. So it's definitely a concept Parks is familiar with. And I think from the input at one of the meetings, we've identified, I think there's a park off of,
Web Chapel,
Web Chapel.
Creek Ridge.
And then there was another one we identified kind of on this side of town, off Spring Valley. It was the Bicentennial.
It has some.
This has got like the
It's a
park
very
picnic
small
tables out
piece
in
of
the middle.
property right off
Yeah.
Spring Valley. That Parks just mows right now. Actually, I think contractor mows.
It's right, yeah.
Yeah, that might be a good one in the fact of it's in a more, not a residential
Commercial
area.
area.
So the other one, the off Web Chapel might be more of a challenge just because it's right in the middle of neighborhoods and things like that.
Right, but my counter to that is you can't get to it without getting hit by a
I
car.
agree.
I went to take photos.
Well, I know that the parks, but I'm kind of talking more about like residential, like how far can I go without getting compoted? But I mean, I know that's not under parks and, I know that's not their department, but I am curious, in addition to what parks could do to like promote that, like how.
Typically, it's height of grass in your yards. And that's what code's gonna come after you about. But I've seen a couple yards on going to the direction on the hard side that they're growing all kinds of stuff in the front yard. It's not just turf.
And I've thought about that like in our easements too, because their easements are grass or a lot of neighborhoods, the easements are grass, but if you're not mowing the easement, then they'll give you a city citation for it. But that's a great area to let it grow and retain water and cut down on.
The only thing
things.
about that is I don't like impeding, like last summer when my transformer behind the house caught fire and they had to get back there, I don't want anything impeding the fire department and the, and Encore getting back there.
What I was gonna say, there's a kind of a middle ground to where what I do in mine, I mow 2 passes around each fence. That way the edges are fine, but it lets the wild grass and stuff grow in the middle.
Okay.
But of course, if you have like an oak tree start growing, you gotta take that out, but.
There was a guy or person family on the corner of Golf and Green on the way to the library that used to have, it was a beekeeper. And like during wildflower season, he would put signs in his yard, like, harden the grass, we're feeding the bees or something like that. So that's what I'm curious about, like, where's the line that we could, like, how
Yes,
close can we get?
as an urban beekeeper, I really want people to have wildflowers. We just split our hives, and now we've got 2 hives going in our back.
Oh, rats.
So
Okay.
that's why I'm trying to grow wildflowers in the easement. Well, Atlas came and wrecked my easement, so now I'm trying to replant all the wildflowers.
I will follow up with code compliance and see if we can get just.
Some
kind of
clarification, yeah.
Do me a favor and check into City of Louisville.
Mhm.
I'll also do the same. I think they had something similar where they changed something with their codes where that was more favorable. So
Okay.
you might want to look into that. I'll also do that too. But I'll get an idea of what our current rules are and we can.
And like how easy it would be to,
Yeah, so we can have a speaker if
Suggest
needed on
and
that, but
change.
I'll get the
I think as
info.
long as you're keeping it off the sidewalks and your neighbor's yard, it should be okay.
I mean, my neighbors have been stopping at my house about the blue bonnets. They're like, oh my gosh, your blue bonnets.
I see them catching people frozen in your front yard.
And it's like, take the pods, go, you can have the seat, that's fine.
Ooh.
But back to the, discussion, is it possible to get a map that shows these little, okay, that would be awesome.
Because we were looking at trying to get one on each part of town. And I think we were able to, so this is the Bicentennial's east. I think the central area would be the one off Web Chapel, and then on the west side would be currently it's the one in Valley View. I think we could probably find, there might be some better areas at the preserve.
Yeah.
Because that's
Oh, that's coming up. then.
Well,
That's opening, I think, the 18th, I think.
Mhm.
but we were talking about, that certain places that might not be worth mowing, but grasses could be a problem, either just making it look like weeds or blocking view, especially on traffic. related areas that, you know, the type of ground cover could be much lower. But it could definitely be a plan of something that's, it's very deliberate, that is not just unkempt, you know, an unkept area.
I know, in Richardson, because I live out that way, they're big on the wildflowers and the medians and stuff, and what they typically do is where they're growing them, they'll mow a pass or two along the curb. So you don't have anything growing into the street, and it makes a literal good, clean look, and then within that, then you've got all the wild.
Just all
Yeah,
wildflowers.
Yeah.
We could do that.
Yeah, so those are things you can do.
Yeah.
We do that at Highland Village.
Right.
I do that in my easement.
Like all the big cities.
Cited me.
I don't have any.
Well, if there's no more discussion, is there a motion to adjourn our meeting?
I move.
Al,
Sure.
first and a second.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting is closed at, what, 8:13?
Yes. Thank you, everyone. Yeah.
Everybody take a.
Camera off.